All right, this is The Yay. I'm Reg Clay.
And Norman G.
This is The Yay, where we talk about life in the theater and the theater of life.
Yay! Woo!
We have a fantastic guest. We have Mallory Somera. She's an actress, she's a teacher, and she's been involved in radio broadcasting, and we're happy to have her. Hey, Mallory, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Doing good. We did a recording last week, and things got screwed up. It's a new technology to learn how to use Zoom and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a learning curve. I think everyone is going through that.
Yeah.
But everything is working just fine now. I'm going to close that out. But
And Reg, I'm going to encourage you to face the light more.
Yeah, I don't want to do a lot. I don't want to do a lot of moving around.
Get into your light. Step into the spotlight.
Exactly. Okay, here we go. So how's everybody doing? How's everybody handling the COVID-19 thing? Things are lifting up. So
are they?
Well, I mean, there are states that are lifting their quarantine.
Right.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but have things improved for either one of you?
I'm not going out anywhere.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay in as much as I can. And I know that my workplace, where I'm working at KCBS, where I'm a producer and writer, I think we're going to be doing the remote thing at least. I know it's going to be at least until the end of September.
Right.
And so I'll probably continue to go in once, twice, 3 times a week, depending on the schedule. But for the most part, I think I'm going to be working from home. So I'm going to try to take advantage of that as much as possible because I don't know.
Yeah, that's the real problem. No one really knows. For those who don't know, Mallory, not only are you an actress, well, I know you from on stage, but you're a producer and a writer for KCBS. You've also worked for KACRLP, Alameda Community Radio.
Yes.
And Norman and I, we were talking before you got on. Norman met with Jeannie, and of course, you've worked with Jeannie on her book.
Yeah, I've worked with Jeannie a couple of times. I've learned a lot from her, and I met her when I was really young. Of course, my mom, Erlina Somera, she and Jeannie worked together a lot. And as I grew older and started collecting all of these different skills, I realized that I could help out and be involved in theater still in a way that utilized everything that I was learning. And so I started archiving for Jeannie. I helped her out for a couple of years so that she could...
right, when she was getting her collection ready for Stanford, right?
For Stanford, yeah. So I spent basically 2 years in her house once every couple of weeks and sifted through, old drafts of plays and cast photos and stage designs and everything, and we categorized them and wrote notes and got them all together in these big bins and packages for Stanford. So that took a couple of years, and now I'm helping her out with her book, Katatagan, and it's about Bay Area, Filipino-American Bay Area theater. So that's really exciting. So I'm going to be doing some contributing writing, and I'm helping her also kind of like archive and document the process, and also going through some like publishing things with her as well.
No, that is fantastic. And, having talked to Jeannie, I remember she had talked about submitting her stuff to Stanford, and it's such a wonderful thing. She's part of history, a part of Philippine-American history. And I imagine going through all of those archives, you got a bit of history as well. I'm sure you learned a great deal.
Yeah. Just, working with her, and then also just growing up in the theater scene in the Bay Area. I've been a part of it in some, capacity since I was 2. So my mom was at SF State going to school for journalism, and then found the theater department. And I was 2 when she did that, and that's when she met you, Norman.
Yeah.
And she's been acting ever since. So I've been running around, green rooms and backstage and on stage and in the audience, and just kind of learning everything. And it was so cool to be a part of a world where people who looked like me were on stage and producing and directing and writing. And I didn't see that anywhere else except for in my immediate life. Um, so yeah, I learned a lot that way. And of course, with my mom being, involved in activism and in theater, I learned a lot. It was really fun.
No, that's awesome. And we'll learn more about you. We're not going to go through a lot of the stuff that we went through last week because, I think we want to talk more about how theater has influenced what you're doing now with radio and
Well,
broadcasting.
yeah, I think
Writing.
we can touch on it. Sounds good.
Yep. Norman, as I begin every podcast, how was your week? And how's
It
Mara?
just
And
goes so
how's...
quick. I mean, look at this. We're almost at the end of May. Can you believe this?
Yeah, I know.
Like
It's
May
amazing.
is almost done. And it's just been another week in the craziness. Yeah, you can see behind me that I've been teaching these third graders playmaking, and so we're at that point in the process where there's not a lot more for me to teach at this point. It's more like you guys need to do it, and I can help you. I can make adjustments and give you feedback. But I'm coming to the end of the process. Graduation is big in our house. Excuse me, Dexter just got his cap and gown.
Nice.
The school is still figuring out what version of a virtual graduation they're going to do, and Dexter is figuring out whether or not that's something he thinks he wants to do. And, it sounds weird to be in this situation, but when you look at it, it's really what we all went through. Graduation was more like, okay, yeah. I mean, I felt like I worked hard and I was ready to graduate. I'm sure from my parents' perspective, it was more like you just spend all your time running around with your friends. You're barely getting anything done. You're dropping classes. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do the work and I don't want it to affect my GPA, so I'm just dropping the class. Yeah, I don't need it to graduate. That senioritis turns into this moment. And this is really just a chance for us, the family, and everybody else to kind of go, you did it. Yay, we're so happy.
Yeah.
And for the school to go, see ya, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're also teaching also, Mallory, aren't you?
Yeah. And so we're coming to the end of the school year. I was teaching at Bayview Elementary. So I was a part of a 24-week residency with the Quiet Street Project, which is based out of Pinole, and it brings drama class, performance class to public school classrooms in West Contra Costa County. I started with them last year when I first moved back to the Bay, and taught with 7th and 8th graders at Dijon Middle School in Richmond. And for the past 24 weeks, I've been working with elementary school students at Bayview in San Pablo. And
Lots
so for
of
the first,
classes.
yeah, lots of classes, 5 classes a day with
Wow.
20 to 25 kids in each class, grades pre-K through 6th grade. All kids who are brilliant and are still learning how to channel their energy into things.
For both of you, how's the challenge of teaching remotely? Because obviously, for the last 2 months, I imagine you've had to do it all via Zoom or, via remotely. You guys there?
Yeah. So I know that some classes are being taught over Zoom, over live video, but I think that with some of my students perhaps have limited access to that technology. And so what I've been doing is I've been videotaping and editing. So I'll add like words, and I'll describe the different activities, and then I'll even do the activities with myself. Like I'll act in the scenes by myself and then put on glasses and then cut away and then, do
Awesome.
stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So it's a little dorky, but it's you do what you got to do.
Yeah. Norman, how's it been for you teaching via, Zoom?
I hate it. But
Yeah.
I just got another offer for a job. I just applied. Tuesday I have an interview
Mhm.
for a job in the fall. I'm not clear on whether or not this is going to be virtual or in person. if they want me to direct a show virtually, remotely, it's not happening. I'm like,
Oh,
no.
yeah, I just can't
Yeah.
imagine that at all.
People
Actually,
are doing it, but I just,
you know,
how can
I've
you get
been,
any nuance? How can you get anything?
yeah, I've been in productions where, let's say, the director is in LA or somewhere, and someone just shoots, a video of what's happening, and it's hit and miss.
Right. I think you missed so much. So no, I'm not. I'm not enjoying it. Um, I guess I'm getting more done than it feels like to me. The feedback I'm getting is that we're getting good work done.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
I,
good.
I miss getting that live feedback from the kids,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much going on in here, and
Yeah.
I love hearing their stories and like what they have to say, and they're much more interesting than any stories that I could come up with off the top of the head, because they're young and they're fresh, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I miss that a lot. So it's, I kind of, I'm just thinking about it now. It's kind of like the difference between, you can hear the difference between, because, I love music. It's, it's like when rappers started to email each other verses and beats, like
Oh.
you can hear it, versus when you can tell that they're working on the record together in the studio.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can
Like
feel the vibe. I didn't know they were doing that. Well, I'm an old school, so, but
they've
yeah,
been doing that for
Really?
like the past, I'm going to say like 12 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a thing.
but I've even heard in film where, let's say, two people, they're not together either because of technical reasons or they just don't like each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they act, let's say the camera shoots one person, then they shoots the other person. You think they're together, but they're not together. So,
Right.
Mhm.
and you can tell the difference.
You can. Yeah. No, it's doable, and I know it's doable, but there have been a couple of things, and I'm sure we'll talk about current events. But this week, there were two articles that I read that I loved and recommend highly.
Hmm.
One is by a guy who is the executive director of the CDC.
Mm.
Brilliant article. And the other is by this journalist, and I don't know either of their names, but the journalist, it's easy to look her up. She won a Pulitzer Prize for her coverage of the Ebola outbreak. Um, she started her journalism career covering HIV,
Mm.
and she has gotten labeled the Cassandra of
Mhm.
pandemics
Yeah.
because she says, "Wow, this is going on." She does a really good job of researching it and communicating what's happening, and she's that voice that just doesn't really get heard or doesn't get paid attention to. And then afterwards, people point and go, "Wow, she knew what she was talking about."
Mhm.
And she said really clearly, we're talking 3 to 4 years before there's any kind of stability. And what's going to happen between now and then is exactly what's happening right now. All those churches that opened up a couple of weeks ago, they're closed again because
Yeah.
people are infected and dying in the hospital.
Yeah.
All this shit that's opening up right now, give it 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to see it all closed down again. Reg
You-
was saying before we got on that he's going to be back on a regular schedule, but what are the rules going to be? What are the protocols? Going to be wearing a mask? How many people are going to be around? Jeannie's husband, they're working in teams now. So they're 2 days on, 2 days off, the
Mm.
same team, same people, so that you're only interacting, you minimize the number of people that you're interacting with.
Oh, that's
Everybody else
smart.
you interact with remotely.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
very smart. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, that's part of the current events. I mean, Trump. I think Trump is doing. He's using these press conferences as sort of a political
He
game of
is.
chess. And
Right.
now he's bringing religion into it. He's basically saying, well, I don't care what the governors say. We're going to open up the churches. Basically
Right.
saying anyone who goes against that is going against God. And he
Right.
tweak that into something political. And it's really, really horrible. I mean, I have a lot of mixed feelings about that. I mean,
Well, how are church people going to feel? How do the church people it's already happened to feel? They wanted their relationship with God. They went to church. Bam, pastor's sick. Bam, other members are sick. Your family members are sick. They're in the hospital. Are you going to take your butt back to church? I don't think so.
Yeah.
yeah, there's already been a pastor who died who basically says, well, God will save me from COVID-19.
Right.
And of course, he's passed away. I mean, I'm a Christian, but the church that in D.C. where I grew up, Metropolitan Baptist Church, they said, listen, we're going to do everything virtually, and there's
Mhm.
no big deal. So
Yeah.
There's a church in East Oakland that is actually they're starting to set up drive-in services.
Yay.
So that should be interesting, and I think that it's a good alternative to being in person and being in church. And it's interesting that Trump is saying all of these things and trying to vouch for religious folks, but I don't think he could quote anything from the Bible.
Well, exactly. He's one of
What was the one he did?
Yeah.
Was it Kings 2? No, what was it? There was some where he didn't even know how to cite the reference. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, and actually there was a poll that just came out. I did a story about it this morning. I just came home from work, and one of the interviews that I set up today was about the fact that Trump, he's trying to appeal to the religious conservatives, but his popularity and his approval rate amongst them is actually declining.
Yeah.
Especially with how he's been handling things over the last couple of months. So he's trying to appeal to that crowd, but he's going to need to do more. Or less.
He doesn't know the language. And we talked about this before, Norman, about the Great Awakenings. There have been 4 Great Awakenings in America.
Right.
The 4th Great Awakening is televangelism, the mixture of religion and politics. And I think Nixon sort of pioneered that, as far as politicians basically saying to parishioners, hey, I will vote on your values if you vote for me. And you have this unholy alliance, and Trump is trying to tap into that, especially with his numbers going down.
Mm-hmm.
With all of these COVID numbers, every day, CNN and a lot of newspapers have these numbers saying how many people have been affected, how many people have died, and very few articles about how wonderful a job Trump is doing. So his numbers going down. So this is a strategy that he's doing, and he has a press secretary who is just being very combative against the reporters.
Oh, the press secretary. She's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Man, they picked the right person. She's right in line with everything that's been happening.
The far right love her. I mean, we think it's ridiculous, but the far right love her. Mm-hmm. Now, here's a question. Now we're getting into current events. So Biden, I've got to talk about Biden. And did you hear this quote that I guess he had interviewed Charlemagne the God?
Really black.
Yeah. Did you hear about this, Mallory?
I did, and that was another interview that I actually booked for today.
What was the interview? What interview?
Who's the interview?
So we spoke with he's a political science professor from University of San Francisco, and his name is James L. Taylor. Very passionate gentleman, and basically he was like, "This is much ado about nothing. Like this is." Yeah, it was, and this is me quoting him and saying what he said. He was like, yes, this was offensive, but I feel like it kind of pales in comparison to what's happening right now.
Right.
And, he basically said, Biden largely has the black vote, and that he actually thought that this was a good kind of PR move. And thought that it was ridiculous because I don't know if you've heard, but the Trump campaign, his team has now created like shirts and hats that say #YouAin'tBlack.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So now they're trying to like twist it around. I think they spent like $1 million on this campaign. And so I am not in the position to like, say one thing or another, but I do think that it wasn't terrible press for him just from like a marketing or that kind of standpoint. I did think it was offensive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Twitter went nuts that first day.
Yeah, I don't know, it was delayed. I think I may have heard about it a day later. But I did read the context, and it was sort of in jest. I mean, he's having an interview with a rapper. And so within the context of that, you can sort of see that Biden's sort of kind of joking.
Right.
But any ammunition you give to the other side is dangerous. And also there's a millennial generation, this new generation of black folks who are not they may not be into rap, hip hop, or whatever. There's sort of,
Right.
a nerdy um, group of millennials
Yeah.
who are very, very sensitive
Yeah.
about all sorts of things. And
Mhm.
Well,
I,
we'll see.
huh?
I said we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
definitely see. I don't think, it's Biden has to be very careful about what he says, but I think if you're going to make a mistake, do it now rather than later. And it pales comparison to Trump.
I think
Uh,
that he does what I think many people do, and he did end up apologizing, saying perhaps I was too cavalier, and
Right.
he was. Um, but it's not an unfamiliar, I think, performative thing that he did,
Yep.
which is to like slip into this role,
yeah,
um,
Bidenism.
and was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we're cool,
But he's
right?
going to
Like,
talk black.
yeah,
Yeah.
like we're
Yeah.
good."
Right. Exactly.
But you can't get too, just can't get too comfortable.
Yeah, we'll have a conversation about maybe on my other podcast, whether you can be too woke white.
Oh, is the other podcast back up? I'm ready.
I'm gonna talk to Will to see how he does, but we'll see. I want to show him how we're doing the Yay
Yeah.
video wise, and we'll see if that goes. Another thing, and this is not so much about politics. Johnson & Johnson, they are recalling baby powder. Did you hear about this?
I did not hear about that.
Because apparently it has asbestos. And so they recalled it, I think, Tuesday of this week. And I was like, wow, we've been using baby powder. Mothers have been using baby powders for children for years.
Yeah.
And now we're hearing about this. So that was interesting. And of course, there's a fire going on right now at Pier 45.
No.
Oh,
You didn't hear about that?
No.
Oh my
I've been
gosh,
out
my
in the yard
morning
all
was
morning.
my morning in the newsroom was crazy, man. I walked in at 5 a.m. and the anchor who had just done 6 hours on the air was like rushing out into the elevator to head down to Pier 45 because it's just down the street.
Right.
So we were reporting on that the whole morning. We talked to a couple of people over the phone.
Pier 45, that's like right in the middle of everything, right? Not in the middle of, but middle of Fisherman's Wharf.
Wharf, that's right.
Yeah, and the devastating part, they were able to save the historic USS O'Brien, so they were able to preserve the ship. The Musée Mécanique, the one that has the Cliff House old arcade games and stuff, that was fine. But other businesses, of course, went up in flames. So I think like the blue and red or blue and gold fleet, they lost their offices. There was a wall that collapsed in the structure. So it was devastating. It was a 4-alarm fire, and the area where a lot of the crab fleet and the fishermen keep their equipment went up in flames. So just for the crab fleet alone, for the I think they're called like crab pots, the things that you like stick in the water.
Right. Yeah.
We were talking to one guy and he said that caused at least, $80,000 in damage, if not up to $200,000 in damage. And a lot of the equipment that's being San Francisco fishermen are different because most of the equipment is kept there. Whereas other coasts, people are keeping them in their private like docks and things like that. But a lot of equipment was there and like burned into flames.
Wow, that's really a shame. It's already been a very difficult 2020 for a lot of folks. And then boom, you have this happen to those folks.
Damn.
I'm glad
no, I hadn't heard about that at all.
Yeah, I'm glad the fire didn't spread because,
Bless you.
Wharf. When everything really opens up and people can actually go and have fun, hopefully in the summer we'll see. Fisherman's Wharf, that's one of the main places. That's one of the main tourist attraction here in San Francisco.
Right. Yeah, and I'm grateful. One person did get injured. So a firefighter was injured, but no one else was hurt. And I think timing wise, it was better than other times because there weren't that many people there.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and it happened early in the morning anyway. I imagine it's still going on now, but yeah, you're absolutely right. If it had been crowded, it would have been much worse.
Yeah, still difficult, and we have yet to see all of the damage. I think when I left the newsroom, they had contained all the fire that was on the outside, but they hadn't gotten everything on the inside yet.
Wow.
So they're going to be working on that for a while.
There's one last thing, and then we can jump into your story, Mallory. Tara Reid, there was a news. I don't know if you guys heard
Oh
about this.
no, what about?
Well, her lawyer dropped out. Her lawyer says, I'm not going to deal with you anymore."
Uh-huh.
Basically, because she lied about graduating. She lied about graduating from college. I think she lied about her undergraduate college. And although it's maybe a
What's that got
minor
to do
thing,
with anything?
it has nothing to do with the allegation. But
Right.
she had been pawning her. She's basically she's been a expert witness on domestic violence on a lot of criminal cases.
Oh,
All of those criminal cases will have to be re-adjudicated because she was an expert witness.
right.
So it puts all of those cases in question.
Wow.
When that happened, I mean, that just happened this week. I don't know if you heard about this, Mallory, but
No, I actually hadn't heard of, I haven't, no.
yeah. So that'll be an interesting thing. Of course, that has nothing to do. I mean, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I already feel that, Biden's been around for a long time. He's been a senator
Right.
for years and years and years.
Right.
But the only woman who's ever said that he sexually assaulted her. I'm not talking about the touchy-feely, which is
Right.
bad, but that's usually, I expect Biden, and Biden has admitted that. But the graphic sexual, stuff that Tara Reid is talking about, only she has mentioned it. And so
Right.
I'm a bit biased. I don't quite believe her, but this makes things even worse for her. So one question for you, Mallory, how do you feel about that? But also, how do you feel about 2020 in the election? I mean, are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? What do you think as far as the presidential election is concerned? How do you feel?
I side with women who allege sexual assault because and I think that the memory is like a very it's a very funny thing, and I also think that things that were okay then aren't considered okay now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people have a very different idea of what consent is now. I think that
Right.
there's much more like education and open conversation about what that means. I also know that traumatic experiences and PTSD and depression can cause memory loss. And, none of us were there. And you're right, that I don't think this helps her case at all. I wish that things went better for her.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, all that I can say about that. And, with any other sexual assault case, I wish justice for the victims, and that things would come to light, because it can be a very traumatizing experience for people who bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see it not go anywhere, or to see your like credibility get shot down,
Mm-hmm.
is not good.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I can say about that. And for 2020, for the election, I don't know. I think that I'm hopeful, but I also am usually an optimistic person. Yeah, so I guess we'll have to see what happens. I don't think that Trump has self as a confident leader who I don't think he's shown up.
Yeah.
Right.
And
You're being polite. You're being very polite.
I don't think that he's filled the role that a lot of people thought that he would. People who supported him in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were expecting more. And it's crazy to think that it's been 4 years since he's been elected. He's had 4 years to do something, and this is the big thing.
Right.
He's had many opportunities. I mean, we've had how many mass shootings since he got into office, and
Puerto Rico,
there's a lot going on, and I don't think that he's not showing up. And I think that while some would argue that rhetoric is just rhetoric, and uh, it's what you do and it's not just what you say, but also rhetoric is so powerful.
Yeah.
And if someone in power is spewing hateful rhetoric and violent rhetoric, then that is going to teach people that it's okay to be that way. And I just hope that that's not the case by the end of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yay.
I think,
Well
I
put.
think it's well said. And, words, people may say, well, it's just words. And a lot of people who support Trump, just trying to listen up from their perspective, they say, well, yeah, he's a little crazy, but he represents what I say. So he represents how I feel. So, or they'll say, well, he speaks real, he's
Right.
a real person. And I'm like, well, sure, he may be not politically correct, but geez, I mean, I can't think of there's been so many races and cultures that he has gone out of his way to insult. I mean,
We
Yeah.
have people who are in the hospital because of shit he said.
yeah,
Yep.
I have a friend who, she's got MS, so she takes what is it, hydrochlora, whatever it is.
yeah,
They've been cutting her prescriptions because it's been so in demand
mm,
because of our president. People are running and begging for this drug and doing whatever they can to get it. And this poor woman has a serious condition,
mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
and the drug helps. It does. It's a condition where you're not being cured.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
All they're doing is cutting down how bad it is at
yeah,
any given time. And so we were supposed to see each other last week, and she was like, I can't go anywhere today.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who she has a daughter who has autism,
Mm-hmm.
and she's spent splitting her time. She's a nurse, so she's on the front line.
Mm.
So she's Asian, so she's dealing with the racism. There was an article in
Right.
the Post about how Asian Americans are dealing with racism in a way they've never dealt with before
Yeah.
because of COVID-19. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
she's a nurse, and plus she has to rush home and be a nurse to her daughter 24/7. So
Right.
people are going through rough times, and then they have to turn on the television and listen to Trump, sort of make a mockery of people, or
Yeah.
make brownie points and stuff. So I really hope there will be a change. And for those who may not agree with what we believe or whatever, you can always post your comments or whatever. But I think there have been better. I'm not anti-Republican. There have been good Republicans. I mean, Eisenhower was a great Republican. Teddy Roosevelt. Mitt Romney, I would not have voted for Mitt Romney, but he would have been a better president than the person.
Yeah, much better.
I
Yeah.
think both sides, there are uh, cons to both sides. And not everyone is perfect. And I know that even, with Obama's presidency, I know that there was a lot that even people on the left disagreed with.
Yeah.
But the difference was that he was a man who knew how to use his words, and he was a good role model.
Mm-hmm.
He set an example for people, and I think it's unfortunate that people tried to attack his character so much when
Right.
I didn't. I think that he was a really wonderful example of a human being. So
I think it's all they had. I don't think they had anything else, so they had to attack his character.
I mean,
right.
I still remember the tears that he cried during Sandy Hook. I mean,
Right.
how many
And
times?
he was criticized for it.
Yeah, amazing.
Yep. I mean, he got flack for wearing a beige suit one time, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So, I wish that we would get someone in office who was cool.
no,
Sane.
you're absolutely right. And with
Well,
that,
it's funny on Twitter. I got into it with a guy. The Biden thing.
you got to stop these fights, Norman.
Well, no, that's what Twitter does, and
Yeah.
it cracks
Yeah,
me
it's
up because
true.
I avoid a lot of it. But I wasn't. It was that first day. Biden's comments. I'm looking up all this horrible stuff, and people just having this knee-jerk reaction. And this guy, what did he post? He posted. It's a meme. Oh, the irony of it. And
Mhm.
it's a guy sitting there taking an iron and rubbing it up and down his face. Oh, the irony of it.
Okay, that's a
And
pun.
I forget what the comment was, But it was basically saying, you people are being ridiculous about this. And I'm like, well, I'm being ridiculous? Because I didn't think I said anything that was ridiculous. So we went back and forth 3 or 4 times. By the end of it, the guy was being really polite with me. Because I was like, I agree with you. People are overreacting. And if you're going to say this is really horrible that Biden did, and I'm not denying it's not good, it's bad. But if you think this is bad, what about the guy he's running against? If you think Tara Reid is bad, what about the guy he's running against?
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to vote for that, you sure can't vote for that guy. Then you can't. If you really believe this, you cannot vote for that other guy.
Yeah.
So if you try to use logic with illogical people, you're not going to get very far. Unfortunately, people
That's
hear
true.
what they want to hear.
Well, yeah. But I mean, it's also the truth of what they're saying. I hear the truth of it, but I'm like, if you really believe that, then therefore, what about this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And with that, let's jump into a conversation with Mallory Somera, and let's learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah. So my Erlena's actually she's waiting to get in. Do you want to?
I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay.
Let me hear.
It's okay. I figured, you're.
How dare we ignore your mom?
I figured we wait until the end of the segment for flow reasons and like doing all that.
Okay, I'm being a bad meeting chat. Maybe I can get some help.
Oh, the other current event you missed.
Yeah, go ahead while I'm trying to do this.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That guy, you've heard of him. He has endorsed Jeff Sessions' opponent, his Republican opponent.
Mm-hmm.
He has endorsed him and basically said Jeff Sessions is somebody you can't depend on. He's a liar and he's not good for the party.
Erlena, are you there?
Huh?
Erlena, are you there?
Oh, she's connected to audio.
Okay. But yeah, I heard about this too. Sessions is running. He's running for senator, and I guess Trump is endorsing his opponent.
His Republican opponent, yes. He's not endorsing the Democrat, but he's endorsing the Republican. And so Sessions came back and said, what I did was right, and it was what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, this is what happens when you lay in bed with someone who you can't trust. I mean, Trump, you got, if it hasn't been Omarosa, if it hasn't been, so many Rex Tillerson, there have been so many individuals who's worked for Trump and have had their hand bitten by Trump. This is what happens. Erlena, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay!
Shame on me for ignoring you.
No. Let me get her video.
Keep talking.
Oh,
I think she's doing troubleshooting for her mom. For those who don't know, Erlena is Mallory's mom, and it's great to
hey!
Hey there!
Yay!
Yay! Yes. I'm so sorry we're doing this twice.
No worries. No worries. This has been fun. We should do it more often.
Yeah, exactly. We're just bashing Trump as usual.
As usual. Like I said, get out there and vote. Get out there and vote.
Yes.
The lesser of two evils.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Did you have any thoughts on Tara Reid, Erlena? I mean, just I don't know. For the Me Too movement, I mean, are you upset that you have to choose the lesser of two evils, or are you enthusiastic?
Well, it gives me time. It gives me, time to reflect. And at this point in time, I think that I heard a little bit about what was being said. No, that was about the Biden's
gaffe
statement. Yeah, comment.
Yeah.
The black statement.
Yeah.
Me too. And at this point, though, I think it's important to know that we need to just move forward and see what we can do to, I don't know, be a better America. Ooh, Did I just say that?
Well, you certainly didn't mean make America great again. I understand what you mean. Yeah. I mean, this Biden, so here's a quick story before we get into an origin story. I had a Philippine girlfriend, and she was coming out of a very difficult marriage. It was a domestic violence that she had to deal with. And as a paralegal, I helped her get a B-1 visa based on the Violence Against Women Act. And that bill, the very fact that I could do that was because of Biden. So Biden is helping, he not only helps women who are involved in violence, but even women who are not American citizens. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that's part of his legacy. And I think a lot of older individuals, especially older politicians, they're dealing with this new media, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, and yeah, you can make gaffes. You can say things that you probably shouldn't say. Yeah. And it doesn't excuse it, but I don't know if you can, fault him for one little thing when you have an entire 20, 30, 40-year history.
Well, it helps if you respond to it, and he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
I think that this isn't the outcome that many people were hoping for as far as the election goes and who we get to choose.
Yeah.
But also, I think that people grow and change. I mean, I know that I'm certainly, thank God, not the person I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I know that I've said stupid things and, done even dumber things. And I'm glad that I'm for the most part probably judged for my character as a whole and not just what I did 10 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah. About the doings, I think, and that Biden has done many good things.
Yes.
So let's put that in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And move on and vote.
That's exactly right. And of course, people will say, there's always this political football and collecting brownie points of things that you did in the past. And, people are we were talking, a while back, maybe a year or so ago about, what was it, Kevin Hart, he was supposed to do the Oscars and someone had found a Twitter feed of, whatever he said. So you're absolutely right, Mallory. I think that, we can evolve and people should people should judge people not just for what they were, but, who they are.
Yeah.
And with that said, let's talk about you. You are a writer, producer, auto journalist for the Oakland Bay area. You've done so much.
Theater artist since she was 2 years old.
Exactly.
Was 2 years old. But what you all don't know is that she was performing even before then.
Oh, in the womb?
In the womb. Actually, yeah. Yeah.
But so I know that you tell me about when you studied at the Art Institute of Chicago, did you make the transition from theater performing to sort of, producing? Did you make that transition then, or was it earlier, or was it later?
It was earlier, actually. So I haven't been in a production since 2011. I've done stage readings since then. And I've done, voice work in school and stuff like that. But my transition into radio, I think my mom said when I was younger, I said I wanted to be a DJ. I didn't know it was going to be in this capacity. And when I was in my last semester at SF State, actually, as a communications major, and I was looking for an internship, and I went on Craigslist of all places, and I saw an on-air radio internship at Pirate Cat Radio in San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was at 21st in Florida. It was well known amongst the, underground radio world. It had pirated airwaves and, had a coffee shop attached to it. And I went in for my interview, and the guy who ran the station paired me up with a gentleman, DJ Nylon, who was my mentor for a while. And he had a show called Fade Out Theater. And he would do on-air readings of scripts, and he would have actors and, audio, light people, because he is a a sound person, and he does, theater production.
And
so,
musician.
yeah. And so I was paired up with him, and I was, learned under him for a few months before getting my own show. And I didn't know at the time what I had wanted to do. But I had so much freedom. I was able to produce my own 2-hour show every single week. I booked whoever I wanted. And I mainly focused on a lot of like local hip hop music and local artists, independent artists, rappers who were also actors. A couple of my earlier guests were Raphael Casal and David Diggs, who are actors, rappers, singers, everything that they can do, they do it. And so, yeah, that's kind of when I made my transition, was when I was my last semester of my undergrad. And from there, I did theater, or I did radio for a couple of years. And then, took some time off to work and, take care of business and, take the GRE and kind of think about what I wanted to do moving forward. And then in 2016, I left for Chicago to get my master's in New Arts Journalism at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago.
Chicago, yeah, no, that's amazing. What did you learn there? I mean, how was your experience there?
It was incredible. I was looking at Boston, New York, other places for school, and I hadn't even considered Chicago until, I had applied I got into New School. I didn't get into anywhere in Boston. My mom and I, we went to go visit a few places and nothing stuck. And one of the last schools I was going to apply to was USC. They had a program in specialized journalism for the arts. And I was like, you know what? I don't see myself living in LA. Being a NorCal girl, it's like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I could go to LA. And so I looked for other programs, and New Arts Journalism in Chicago was there. I applied. We went, got a warm welcome, and it was a city I almost knew nothing about, except Kanye West was from there, Common was from there, and I liked both of them. But I went, and just the art was incredible. The public art, the people were nice.
The architecture.
It's a beautiful city.
It's a wonderful city.
It's a beautiful city. And in the summer it comes alive. And I felt like, because I didn't know anybody there. And I felt like, because I didn't know anybody there, I kind of almost got to start over and start fresh and figure out, the way that I like to put it is, Chicago, it's so spacious and it's flat. And I felt like there's a lot of room. It's like a good incubator for creativity. No one was telling me what to do. And so I kind of just got to do whatever I wanted. And I took my audio experience, my radio experience, and a lot of the people that I went to school with, it's a interdisciplinary school. And I didn't really know anyone else who was doing radio there. The people that was in my cohort, they're all print journalists. And so I came in with different experience and started doing radio at the school there. And yeah, I just kind of got to be my own person and just kind of figure it out. But yeah, it was really cool to be in a city. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go to New York was because I was like, oh, well, birthplace of, hip hop. And I love the city. It's alive. And it's so much of, I still love New York. But what was really cool about moving to Chicago when I did was that Chance the Rapper had dropped his coloring book album that same year. And it set off this wheel that was just spinning and spinning there, where young artists, young rappers, young independent artists in Chicago were like getting the spotlight shown on them. And it was really cool to be there for that, because there's so many venues for creativity and for young people to express themselves. And it's not one of those like big shot cities. And so one person that I became a fan of there was Jamila Woods. She's a poet and a singer. And what was so cool was that I would see her on the screen. and I would see her music videos, but then I would also see her at an open mic, and she would be there with a beanie on and no makeup, and she would sit in the back, and she knew everybody. And that's how it was the whole time I was there. Was I would run into people who were like famous in Chicago for what they were doing, but they were just there walking around, and there was no air about them. And they were just so accessible, and it was nice.
That was cool. And it's an amazing energy. When you were talking, it reminds me sort of how I've heard Bay Area theater was, at a particular time, like in the 80s or what have you. I'm
Yeah.
sure you know a lot about that. Or when I went to school in New York during the time that Public Enemy was just getting big in the 80s, and Yusuf Hawkins had just been killed. And there was a march from Bensonhurst to Bed-Stuy carrying a makeshift coffin of Yusuf Hawkins. That was sort of an iconic thing. And Spike Lee even wrote about it, Do the Right Thing,
Right.
in '89. So I sort of get the energy that you're talking about, Mallory. One question that I had, do you think that theater sort of helped you? When I think about theater and radio, there's still about stories and crafting a story from beginning, middle, and end so that an audience can appreciate it. Do you think that theater sort of gave you an advantage, the history that you had that maybe some other kids didn't have when you were at the Art Institute in Chicago?
Yeah, I'm where I'm at because I was involved in theater. You take away what you can see, and you still have theater, you still have drama. So, you still have to have some sort of structure. One of the things that I teach the kids is the structure of a story. You still have beginning, middle, and end. So you have to have these, these posts that you still kind of like, that you still have to kind of stick to. You have to have expression in your voice and use words that are colorful and have texture.
That's right, voice acting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So, and I also didn't know a lot of theater kids when I was at SAIC, maybe in the performance department, but definitely not in the journalism department, which was there was only 4 of us in my class. But I think that just knowing what an audience looks for, knowing what excites people and provokes thought and discussion, taking all of that into my journalism. And I think just, I've also, I worked in customer service for years, like up until last year. And theater customer service, it's very performative. And so I took all of that with me, and it's like, okay, well, first you have to know how to work with people, right? So that's one of the things you teach theater students is ensemble work, is working as a team. If you have a scene partner, you can't just ignore them. And it's the same thing as, working on a group project, or, working with your editor, or, what have you, working in a newsroom with other people. You have to work with others to make something work. And having just the different components of, like the radio station I'm at now, we have an editor, we have reporters, we have the news director, and it's all about working as a team. And so I think I took a lot of that teamwork and ensemble work that I learned growing up in theater and training at Berkeley Rep and all of that, and just trying to think outside of the box as much as I could. I think that helped me out a lot.
That's really cool. Norman, I want to bring you in. Have you done voice work before? Just on?
I've done some, yeah.
How difficult or easy is it?
I don't know. That's a hard question because, there are things that people like whenever we get into conversations about training, there's training and then there's just, what the heck? I'm sorry. My computer is glitching. There's people's just instincts and their natural abilities. So if you have a natural ability at something and then somebody funnels you in the right direction so you can take advantage of that, that's great. On the other hand, if you decide that you don't really know anything about it, but you want to, then you know, you can learn, you can develop it. I I like I like voice work better than I like film.
Is
Mm.
that right?
Well, because film is more what the editor is going to do, and what the director and the DP, director of photography, agree that they want to shoot. And if you are very savvy and you've got any voice in that, then maybe you can make some choices about it. But otherwise, you're just sort of performing, and it's what they capture
Mm.
and what they decide to do with it, how they edit it. Like there's this short piece that I just posted on Facebook that I did with Ron Santiano.
Yeah. And
Um,
you were just awarded a, I think that you were
I
nominated.
didn't get awarded, but I got nominated.
Yeah.
It won some awards, but I was nominated at one point as Best Supporting Actor, which cracked me up. It's a short action piece. I'm not part of the action, so I thought, oh, okay, I'm just sort of, I'm just there. But if I'm on camera, if I'm on set, when I'm on, I'm on. So there are a lot of shots of me reacting. There are a lot of shots where I'm not saying anything.
Hmm.
And they decided to put that in, and I knew that was happening after a while because the director and the director photographer would stop and they would talk, and they'd say, "Okay, we're going to do that again. Norman, make sure you don't go anywhere." I'm like, I thought they were doing a fight scene. Yeah, but we want to make sure you just stay right where you are. And the next thing I know, the guy's up in my face with the camera,
Yeah.
catching my reactions. Well, that wasn't anything I planned. It wasn't anything that I, in any way, like consciously said, "Oh, this is what I'm going to do for the camera." I was just acting, and they captured it and they put it in with a lot of, like I see now, where he's really edited this thing. So the fights, he's added in some beautiful sound effects and made the fights look really cool, and then all these little reaction shots of me. So with voice work, it really is a lot more about what you do that makes the moment. It's sound. If it's a sound medium, sound is what you have control over.
Mm-hmm.
But as an actor, film, I don't have control over. If they decide to shoot it from some other angle, I don't get it. In fact, I did a commercial once, and I was actually supposed to get a lot more money, but they decided at the last minute that they were not going to shoot. The ending that they had originally was that I turned around and smiled and winked and then walked away.
Oh.
They decided, because of budget stuff, that they weren't going to do that, and instead they put, it was for Mountain Dew, and they put the do on the back of my jacket.
Oh.
So I walked by, and then they took a shot of the back of my jacket, and that was the end of the commercial.
And for those who don't know, you get more money if you actually speak, I think.
And if you see your face.
Right. So,
and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I'm not.
Whack.
Film is film, and
You
it's
were
all
still in a
acting,
Mountain Dew
but-
commercial.
Hmm?
It
I
was
think
fun.
I remember that actually.
That was your back acting, Norman.
I remember that. That was like back in VHS days, right? I think I might have like taped it on VHS.
I think I do have it on VHS. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a long time. That was a while ago.
Maybe
It was before one of the Olympics, because Michael Johnson, I think his name was, he was a Canadian runner.
Ben
And
Johnson.
everybody was saying he was going to be the big guy that year.
Yeah.
And he sprained an ankle, or not an ankle, but he pulled a muscle or something, kind of took him out of the running. So what was predicted to be, because that was being done as a Super Bowl commercial. Oh, it was when Superman came out. The Superman movie where he spins around the earth and makes everything go backwards, make time go backwards.
That's in the 70s.
No, not 70s.
Okay.
It's 80s. I was not making movies in the 70s, I promise you.
Well, if that movie was in it's okay. I dig what you're saying. I think the Olympics would have been, what, 88 Olympics?
Yeah, it would have been like 88 Olympics.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't have been doing it then. It was later. But they did it because the movie had that, where he spun, to keep Lois Lane alive, he spun around the earth. So they were riffing off of that.
Got
where
it.
the runner runs so fast that he makes the earth go backwards so he can go to the store, because the store is just closed, so he can't get a Mountain Dew.
He's ripping off of the 70s movie, but it was done in 88 or 92 or whatever it was. I totally
Yeah, and I think it was another Superman movie where they referenced it.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to bring your mom in. I was going to, but go ahead. I don't want to disturb your groove.
No, I was thinking, so I had a thought. I was, you had asked about, theater and how that helps out and everything. And I think one thing that I learned about, especially when you think about like the beginning of a play, right? You set the scene, and you set a time and a place, and you set the characters. And what I would do when I was doing radio in Chicago was or even when I was doing it here in San Francisco, is I would like take a theme and kind of roll with that. There were some days I didn't even plan the playlist that I would play. But I remember election day, 2016, and it was the night before the election, and they had started to open polls in Chicago. And I was doing my show, and I was doing my show, and I also knew that Chance the Rapper was doing a live stream from downtown Chicago where he was taking all of these young people who were old enough to vote, and he told them, like, I'm going to be here at a certain time, and we're going to lead a march to the polling place, and we're going to go and we're going to vote. And I was doing my show at the same time, and I was, following the stream and then also doing my show. And I just remember setting the scene, and I was like, okay, well, Chance, he's walking down this street now, and like describing what the crowd looked like, and then doing the show based on that. And it's kind of like theater, right? You take some of the best theater takes a night or one party, like, Orlina, like my mom states, it's like the slice of life, right? So you take one aspect of something and then you kind of flush it out, and you unpack it from there. So you set the scene and you unpack like a small moment. And I think that's what I learned kind of how to do and how to like adapt what I've learned in theater for radio and for broadcasting and producing.
No, that's an excellent point, because I just finished watching the documentary Michael Jordan, part documentary.
The Last Dance.
Yeah, The Last Dance. And it's just, you think you know the story, but then there are all sorts of these elements that are unpacked that only a producer or a director can see. Oh, these are some of the nuances, or these are some of the stories that we may not have heard. Like, just Chance the Rapper and, walking these people, and the euphoria that they must have felt. They're like, oh, hey, we're going to make history. Hillary Clinton is going to be president. And then all of a sudden something else happens.
Right.
But no, that's very interesting. I wanted to bring your mom in. How did you've seen your daughter, from when she was on stage at 2 years old up to now. Has it shocked you? Has anything surprised you with what Mallory's done?
No, not at all. From a very early age, she was able, of course, she came from me. So, no matter what it was that we did together, playtime, reading time, serious times, that kind of, one of the things that she did so well was listened. She took in everything that was being said. And one of the things that I encouraged her to do and encouraged us to do as a mother-daughter team was for us to express what it was that we were feeling at the time, and to take that in. So no, I'm not surprised. What she did is she took in all the information, all the relationships, everything, experiences, and she just, did what she could. I don't know. Mallory had mentioned earlier that she wanted to be a DJ. She remembered wanting to be a DJ. The thing that she said when she was about, correct me if I'm wrong, Mal, I think you were maybe two-ish, if not about two-ish. I asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up, and she said, I want to be a clown, mommy. Why is that? And she said, so I can make people laugh.
Wow.
So am I surprised? No. I think that she was born into the theater, if you will. Norman was there. We did To Be Young, Gifted, and Black at San Francisco State.
I'm glad you mentioned that one. I've got an interview on Tuesday for a gig, and that might be a good play to mention.
Why is that, Norman?
Well, because of the title, it there's a focus on young people that might be appropriate. Plus,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of mini scenes, so it makes it easy to break it up with a
How long ago was that?
ah,
Oh,
something
oh.
like that.
Let's see. Mallory was not 2, so 30 years ago.
Must
She
have
was
been
not 3.
89.
I think it was. You
Must have
think
been
it
She
was
turned
1990.
3.
2?
Was it 1990?
No, it was before 90, wasn't it?
It had to be 89, right? I was born November 87.
The cool thing
Yeah, I
about
think it might have been 89.
the cool thing about To Be Young, Gifted, and Black, I mean, I started in theater doing stage readings, but prior to that at San Francisco State, we did do To Be Young, Gifted, and Black, was that, you know, there were just different slices of life that Lorraine Hansberry put in this wonderful play.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but there was movement, there was the transitions of present time, political times, youthful times, and there was song as well. And one of the things, you know, we were talking about voice, you know, one of my earliest memories of doing theater was being able to take everyone's voice and putting it all together and making this wonderful masterpiece. And so I guess it was just to kind of piggyback off of what Norman said about uh, the vocal abilities in theater. I'm with you, Norman, on that. I love working with people's voices in theater and how they're able to create this environment and tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I went off topic here.
Ah,
About Mallory. Mallory, she grew up in the theater. I'm not surprised. She was a sponge. She actually really enjoyed the lighting in theater. She would always try to guess what color filters they were using or gels.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, and she would look back and she'd say, "I thought so." You know, she was so cute.
Yeah, you had mentioned something about the art of listening. I mean, I was thinking, you know, us boys when we're, you know, I mean, usually they say that girls are better listeners than boys, you know, when we're
right.
toddlers or whatever. But the art of listening, especially with radio, I mean, in theater and also in radio, it's something that, because Norman, you and I, we have this debate about should people go to school or should they not go to school? What natural abilities do you have?
Right.
I really had to pick up my ability to listen to another artist. I remember there was a play that you directed that had me in it, and there was a partner that I had, and I could tell that the partner was not really listening to me. The partner was just basically waiting for his line.
Mm.
Like
Right.
I'm saying my line is like da 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 da. And
Right.
okay, this person is not listening to me at all. And I realized that it's a talent. It's something that you have to. It's something that you have to develop. And I
You
imagine,
can develop, yes.
And practice. And I think, and practice. I mean,
Yeah.
I get that part. I've been one of those actors, Norman may attest to this, where I'm not necessarily listening, but I'm waiting for my cue line because I'm so nervous. But with Mallory, I think she was able to not only listen, but to receive the information and to think about it, and then to take that information, you know, without thinking about it, organically being able to kind of respond to that.
no, that's awesome. Hey,
Yes.
Mal, here's a question for you because you're also a director as well. I mean, let's say you're producing something and you have to tell the actors, let's say in the if it's a radio thing, or even as a producer for a documentary or, you know, whatever, you have to sort of instruct people in how to read or what to read or what have you. Do you put on the director hat sometimes?
You mean for radio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I think the radio producer's job is kind of producer slash director. So my role as a producer is to book the experts and the guests for the interviews. But you're also writing the prompts, the lead-ins for those interviews. And you're also writing the questions. And so that's kind of your opportunity to direct the conversation in a way to hit a topic at a certain angle. You can have, you could book a phone interview about, let's just say, about kids learning at home during the coronavirus, right? You can do like 5 different interviews on that. Just today, we had someone come on to talk about how kids are experiencing a lot of depression and anxiety, and they're having trouble sleeping while they're learning at home. Mm. And so that's one angle. So I think kind of a director's role is to go at something to direct the narrative at a certain angle. So I do believe that my role is kind of producer / director. So I guess my role now is like producer, director, stage manager. If you had a stage manager for radio.
I imagine there's a lot of spontaneity where you have the show in your head, and you have to sort of course, you want things to happen organically and as naturally as possible, but you sort of want to push things towards, because you have a narrative in your head as how you want things to go.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, you can plan things out, but things don't always go the way that you plan them to go. And so you have to be able to take something in that moment and go from there and just try to, like I was talking about earlier, like unpack things that come up.
Yeah. I want to talk about Bindlestiff, because Bindlestiff, I mean, that's how you and I met, and Bindlestiff holds such a wonderful place, and I think all of our hearts. We met in 2011, and it was the inaugural opening of their new space, or the space, it was new at the time. Can you talk about what Bindlestiff means to you and to the Philippine community here in the Bay Area, at least the acting, Philippine community in the Bay Area?
Yeah. I've only done a couple of things with Bindlestiff, but I've worked with people at Bindlestiff for a while, and I think for me, you mentioned that we were in Stories High together in 2011, and we weren't in the same piece. So I guess for anyone watching who isn't familiar with it, Stories High is a compilation of different pieces written through workshops. I think the plays are written through workshops, right?
That's correct.
And so it's a compilation of short pieces put together in one show. And there is a movement to them. There's, they are ordered in a certain way, put in order in a certain way to go with the flow. But yeah, you and I met there, and I think that experience itself is the epitome of what it is to be Filipino American. It's collaborative, and Filipinos have hella family members. We got hella cousins and sisters and aunts and uncles, and you all get together for Christmas or Thanksgiving, and you sing together and you do things together, and then you party in the green room. And then you go back on stage, and then you get to be dramatic. And so I felt like Stories High is definitely the epitome of what it means to be, culturally Filipino and Filipino American. And the space itself is just, I think it's the only theater space in America that's dedicated to Filipino American art.
That's correct. Yep.
So it's important, and it's the setting of it as well, being right across the street from where the I Hotel used to be, right across the street from the, what's the center called?
Bayan, oh shucks.
Bayanahan?
Yes, bingo.
So, it being in Manila town, and just it being this, this final black box theater, being the product of so many years of work. And I've heard so many stories from people who were involved with Bindlestiff back in the day, when it was at that location before it was like established as their own space, and everything that they had to go through to get that space and to act in that space. Even just walking there on a regular night, and just the adventures that you have to get there.
Oh, yeah, Fifth Street.
Very colorful.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think the space is just, it's a symbol for the work. It's a symbol for like camaraderie and being able to express yourself in a way that, no one's really telling you how to express your culture in that space. It's special because Filipino Americans don't get that opportunity a lot to do that in theater, not even in the Bay Area. And, certainly not in film and in television. It's so recent that these voices are finally being heard. So it's such an important space for Filipinos to be able to tell their own stories on their own terms.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in 2011, when I went there, the energy was just amazing. And we've had so many people on the Yay, like Percy Asabal, we've had Michael Dorado, we've had Jeannie on twice, and I think you may have met Jeannie at Bindlestiff, or maybe you met her elsewhere.
No, I would assume at State.
Yeah. But everyone has talked so much. Conrad Panganaban, he's talked about just what Bindlestiff meant to them, and how you're absolutely right. It's a cultural, it's the place where you can sort of, you feel at home, and the energy. I mean, there were so many actors and directors and people just jumping in and moving sets and whatever. It was a wonderful energy when it opened up in 2011. And I'm glad the city of San Francisco has recognized Bindlestiff as being a culturally significant place.
Guerrilla theater.
Funding, it has the funding to do what they do for the Philippine community, for all of the community in San Francisco.
I wanted to shout out to my homie from Vallejo, Alan Manalo.
Yay!
Yeah.
He was the main reason why Bindlestiff, I believe, is what it is now. His hard work, he and his wife both have done so much to bring the Filipino American stories to stage.
Yeah,
Our community. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, Alan, it's just fantastic. Alan. Yeah, and we got to get him on. I haven't spoke to him in a long time.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I think we're about an hour and a half. But did you? I'm going to give you the last word, Mallory. Where's your future? What do you want to do in the future? You may be very happy doing what you're doing right now, but where do you see yourself 5-10 years from now?
I am happy. But I'm always just trying to think of other things that I want to do also. So there's some projects that I desperately need to and want to finish. My thesis project is something I'm really passionate about, and it's a podcast, and it follows what happens when hip hop artists relocate and how it changes their process and their art. And it was my thesis project. And so it's something that's like next on my list, besides just doing the work that I'm doing. That is something that I need to finish. Raphael Casal and David Diggs are my subject in that episode. And so that'll be my subject for that first episode. And then, I'll see where it goes from there. I've got plans. And on my bucket list is to write for television at some point in my life. I love television. I think it's so much like theater, where you really just get into the heart of characters. And I love, like, we've been watching Parks and Rec, and I love the thought of what I love about television is seeing how each character in an ensemble reacts to something. Like being able to see how each character deals with the same problem, I think is just golden. So I would love to write for television someday. And
Yeah.
another thing on my list is to produce and host my own traveling series about music. And I haven't pinned down exactly what the topic might be, and I don't know what medium I want it to be. I don't know if I want it to be audio or just video or, what have you. But those are two of my goals, three of my goals, I guess. So that's what is next at some point.
No, that's awesome. And when you were talking, I thought of two things. One, Slate has a fantastic podcast called The Hit Parade, and it gets into the history of music, and it takes like a certain aspect of music. Like I think last week it was Billy Joel, and beforehand it was Whitney Houston. But not just talking about the artist, but also sort of what was happening around the time the artist, came to be and the history behind that. So I can see you doing something like that. I was also thinking, if you're thinking about doing writing for film and television, you may want to get into like a playwriting program. Like I've been doing Play Cafe, and
what is that?
Play Cafe. They're run by Richard Jennings and I forget the woman's name.
Jamie Greenblatt.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Jamie Greenblatt. Basically, they take in budding playwrights. They take in their work. I think you have to pay $6 or $10 or so, and they will gather actors, and they'll do a play reading. And as a matter of fact, I'll be doing a play reading. That's something that I'll be advertising for Memorial Day weekend. It'll be the Sunday before Memorial Day. It'll be via Zoom. But in any case, Play Cafe, they host budding playwrights. I think they do it once a month. And you get feedback. You get actors who will do your work. Norman has participated.
I'm doing it Monday.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
And
I wish it was public. I'd invite you guys.
Yeah. Also, Playground.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, Playground is doing that. The Playwright Center for San Francisco is doing that. The Brooklyn Preserve, they're also doing that. So there are a lot of venues that will take a budding playwright. It doesn't matter if you don't have any experience, and they'll say, "Hey, can you have someone read my play?" It may not be even meant for the stage. It may be meant for film or television, but just to hear it and constructive criticism, that'll be a great thing. And that's for anyone who's watching the Yay. If you're a budding playwright and you're looking for a venue, those places, and we'll put a link in our show notes for that.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Norman, did you want any shout outs? Did we?
Yeah, I have a birthday list this time. I was ready.
Okay.
Where is it? There it is. So because we haven't done it in a while, I actually picked up a couple of birthdays from before. Jeffrey Lowe, who is a pretty substantial Bay Area director. I have not actually personally, I think I've seen him. I don't know that we formally met. But anyway, his birthday was yesterday. And Roy Conboy, a Bay Area playwright, his birthday was yesterday. Manu Mukasa is a director, teacher. He's actually a professor now. But back in the day, I worked with him before I started Oakland Public Theater, and then he came in and did a couple of shows with us, which was pretty cool. On a personal level, my stepfather's birthday is tomorrow, so I've got to remember to call him and say happy birthday,
name?
Paul. Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Happy birthday, Paul.
Birthday.
Kenny Moscow is how I knew him in college, a guy I went to college with, and he looked a lot like a young Bruce Willis, sorry, not Bruce Dern. He looked a lot like a young Bruce Willis, great sense of humor. Then the youngest person I think I have on my list is a guy named Nigel Berkeley.
Nigel Berkeley?
Who is a young playwright, and I got to do a read. He wrote a play called Adelia or the Nose Play, and it's just one of the wackiest things I've read in a long time. A lot of fun, a lot of heart. It was just amazing how smart and insightful he was for somebody so young, because he was writing about a father raising adult children and a woman, middle-aged woman. The relationships and the way the story developed was just, I was like, dude, how did you write this story? This is somebody who's gone now, but his birthday's coming up this week, Stephen Randolph.
Oh, Stephen.
Wonderful
Yeah, I
actor,
remember
too.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy that Facebook keeps popping these dead people up. I'm like, yes, I still want to remember. And then the last one I have on my list is David Ford. He's a playwright, playwriting instructor. He works a lot out of Marsh, so a lot of solo pieces that you see come out of the Marsh are folks who have worked. If they didn't work on the play, they worked on development with David Ford.
Wow.
So that's my list of birthdays for this week.
All right. I'm not set up for birthdays, but I do have two shout outs. Number
Okay.
one, Plethos Productions. They're doing video auditions for Much Ado About Nothing. And so you have to submit by the 25th, which is 2 days from now.
Right.
So, we'll have a link. But it's Plethos, plethos.org/auditions. So,
Are they paying?
huh?
Do they pay?
Well, yes. Now, what they pay, you have to talk to those folks. But
Okay.
in any case, no, I've done. Plethos is near and dear to my heart because they produced my play Four Men in Paris,
Which is fantastic.
yeah, which was fantastic. Thank you. And we were going to do Tiny Beautiful Things, which would be a fantastic. It's a book. It's written by Cheryl Strayed, and it's a fantastic. It's a play based on writings by a woman named Sugar. She's basically like an advice columnist.
Right.
And Sugar, and there are 3 columnists, and it's basically a slice of life, and it talks about a lot of serious issues. So I wish we had done that, but that's what we were going to do. But they're working on Much Ado About Nothing, and so it opens August the 14th, and I imagine it'll run maybe a month and a half.
Oh wow.
If you're going to audition for it, then you'll have to submit it by in 2 days from now.
Are they planning on doing this live, or are they going to do it remotely?
Well, are you talking about the auditions or the show?
The production.
I think they're hoping that everything will be open by then. So I think they want to do it live.
Okay.
So we
will see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. And something that I had alluded to, I'll have a link in the show notes, but I'm a playwright, and so I've written a play called Judicial Process, and that's an adaptation of Bertolt Brecht's Judicial Process. Bertolt Brecht basically wrote 27 one-acts dealing with, it's called Fear and Misery in the Third Reich. And so they're basically 27 snippets of activity that had been going on during Hitler's reign, just before the attack on Poland, before World War II. And so Susan Evans, who runs Town Hall Theater, she basically gave me and a couple of other budding playwrights a job assignment, basically to take Bertolt Brecht and adapt it into the age of Trump. And so my piece, Judicial Process, talks about ICE and how ICE is affecting the illegal immigrants and the collecting of illegal immigrants and the detainment camps and all of that sort of stuff.
Very cool.
So, yeah. So Judith Offer, who she runs a playwriting or play reading camp or whatever it is from the Brooklyn Preserve. And so,
series. Yeah. It's a series.
Yeah, it's a series. And so she's going to be highlighting my play, and that'll be on the 25th. No, I'm sorry, it's not the 20th, the 31st. The 31st of May, which is Sunday. And it'll be a Zoom thing. So you can click on Zoom if you want to participate. It's absolutely free. And you can be an audience to me and a bunch of other actors. I think there are 6 of us, and we'll be doing the Judicial Process. So that'll be fun. It'll be Danny Martin. It'll be Eko Yamamoto, Pete Fitzsimmons. I'm sure you know Pete.
Yeah.
And a couple of other folks. And I'm excited about it.
Very cool.
Very happy.
Cool.
So that is that.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, I'll send you guys links.
Can I give a quick shout out?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Mallory.
My mom. But also, this is my first interview. So, well, besides the
Oh,
one that we recorded last week, but this is like I've interviewed so many people in my life, and I've never been interviewed before. So this is like very cool for me.
yay!
Thank
So shout
you.
out to like all my mentors, and it's the same people I dedicated my master's to, which is just everybody who's taught me something along the way. That includes you, Norman,
Well,
um,
thank you.
my old director and mentor in Oakland Public Theater, head, and let's see, Deborah Often Spring and Dushko Petrovich and DJ Nylon.
Uh,
Who else? I think those are, and Jeannie Baroga, my dad,
yeah.
Chris Ramsey,
Hmm.
my auntie, and everybody who's just been the best.
Yeah.
So,
Yay.
Well, I mean,
shout out.
I think you're a rising star, Mallory, and I think it's just, although it's been a long time since we've talked, you've done so much. There are a lot of folks who don't do half of what you've done. It's it's such a short period of time. There's still folks who are still figuring out what to do. In their mid-20s, and you're really on a very good trajectory. And so I'm very happy that you agreed to do the interview. So thank you so much.
Yay.
She's
Thank
still
you.
learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple things. Playground is doing their 25th anniversary celebration right now. Um, I'm not sure exactly how they categorize all this, but I'm going to put it under the umbrella of Best of Playground, which Playground, if you don't know, is an organization that does short pieces by playwrights. They bring together directors and actors, and they do typically 6 shorts in an evening, the third Monday of the month at Berkeley Rep for the normal theater season. And then at the end of the season, they do a best of. So they pick each night, the audience picks their favorite. And then out of those, they pick a few. And that's, I'm lucky that a couple of the pieces that I got to direct made it into the finals. So I'm directing a piece. Um, and that's coming up. That won't actually be until June, so I'll say more as that's coming up. But you can see more information at playground-sf.org to get their whole thing, because they also take a lot of these short pieces, get developed into full-length plays, and there are readings of those plays, and then some of them get developed into full productions. And so last year I got to direct one of the full productions. The year before, I was in that play as just a reading, so I was really thrilled about it. I've been working with Playground for a while now. I enjoy working with them. So that the festival is going on now, and I think right now they're highlighting those. There are 2 pieces, 2 full lengths that are being done in rep at the Potrero stage in San Francisco. So that was one, and then the other one I don't have a link for, but I'm acting in a new translation, not adaptation, but an actual translation of Chekhov's Three Sisters.
Oh, right
So
on.
I'll be
Wow.
doing that, and I'll be doing it. I think it's 3 o'clock next Sunday, so I think we're kind of head to head next week, Rich.
Yeah. Well, my thing is on at 5, and yours is
Oh,
at 3.
right.
Is yours a Zoom thing? I mean, can
It'll
we?
be a Zoom thing, yes.
Right
So,
on.
and I don't have a link for it yet, but as soon as I get a link, I will let you know.
Right. Hey, fantastic. And that, that's fantastic that amidst this COVID-19 thing, artists are still creating. We're
Oh
like,
yeah,
we're
got
not
to.
going to let this thing stop us. So that's
You go
fantastic.
crazy if you don't.
Right, exactly. Mallory, Arlene, did you guys enjoy yourselves?
Yeah, yeah. This is always fun to watch Mallory grow and see my old buddy Norman.
Yay.
Yay!
No, it's great seeing you again, Arlene, and I hope we got to get you back on stage again because
Yes.
you're a fantastic.
Oh, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorite actresses.
I've been doing a lot of writing actually, so that's
Yay.
going to be interesting. Yeah.
Oh, well, we should highlight that. I mean, is it book writing, playwriting? What type of writing?
Memoirish, I think. But some of the writings that I've been doing, let's see, it was actually prompted by joining is that East Bay Writers? It's I don't know if it's East Bay Writers, but it's through the Berkeley Rep campus.
Okay.
Oh,
Go in. What's it called, Norman?
I don't know. You mean with Gary Graves?
Gary Graves?
No, no. It was just an opening for people who would like to write and have a quiet space to do so.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's over at the Berkeley Rep campus off of
Nice.
Newman. And so I would just sit there in the big overstuffed chair and just start writing. A lot of it started off very deep, kind of these deep feelings that I had. How I would start I would take a person from my family and just start stream of consciousness, just start writing. And a lot of them were very emotional, but at the very end, I see now where stand-up comics, they're
Oh,
so
yes.
deep and black, but they're so funny. I would just
Yeah.
sit there and crack myself up by the time I ended, like 30, 40, 50 an hour after writing. I would just like sit there and crack myself up. It always ended up like that. So my writings right now, having worked with so many playwrights
Mm-hmm.
and so many writers before me, helping them put their stuff on stage, I worked with some women, my elders in the Filipino community, my manangs, I call them, my friends, who would turn to me and say, it's time for you to start. You have a responsibility now to your family and to your ancestors to start writing for you, for your family. So that's what I've been doing. But also in this day and age now of Zoom and everything else, just writing little snippets of those slices of life that make me laugh. I sit there and I tell Mallory, hey, what about this idea? And she'll just be like, yeah, okay, that sounds funny. And every so often, if I get a guffaw, I know that I'm on the right track. So
There you go. That's fantastic. I think everyone should do writing. I have a journal. I write a journal, I think I've written every day. I've had a journal since 1992, so it's always good to have
Wow.
to write. Mallory, thank you so much, and I want to let everyone know that this will be I'm going to post this on YouTube, but also the audio part of it will be part of our usual Yay podcast, and that will be on any podcast that you listen to, whether it be Spotify, the Apple Podcast app. You may be an Android user, so you can use SoundCloud. Just go on soundcloud.com or download the SoundCloud app. The Yay was created by theater people for theater people. If you have a show you want to advertise in the Bay Area, or if you just want to advertise yourself, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. I'm at Reg Space Clay.
And I'm at Hoosier.
Mallory, do you have are you on any, do you do
Everything.
Yeah.
you do Twitter?
Well, I guess you can start off, I have a website. It's more like a portfolio.
MallorySomera.com.
Yeah, Mallory. It's my first and my last name with the .com at the end of it, and that's where you can see some of the stuff that I've done, and I've got some of my produced interviews and writings and stuff up there. So that's where you can find me for now. I'm also on Twitter, but it's mostly a mix of like music, culture, and news. So I don't know. No one's a screen name anymore. My handle is Ekute, which is my DJ moniker. So it's EC, the number 0 UTEZ. So I think that's the easiest way to find me.
Yep, and I'll post that as well. So anyone who's looking for a producer, a writer, director, someone who may want to hire you, you can't go wrong with Mallory Somera. That is it. And as we always say, we gotta find
a better sign off.
And we are out.
yay.
Thank